program. It is an honor and pleasure for me to be a part of your program here, supporting women learning Torah here in Eretz Yisrael. Nothing more important than that. And I just came back myself yesterday from a speaking tour in America that took me to Aspen, Vale, Southampton, Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket. It was really roughing it.
Sounds like it.
But I met a lot of nice Jews on vacation who took the time out from their vacation to learn about Israel and what we're facing. And just to understand how important this is. I mean, I know you've had a lot of speakers today, and it might be a little overwhelming, some of the Torah, some of it not, but in the end it's all Torah. The war's about to end, thank God. And then the battle begins over the narrative of the war. And this all started on that dreadful, horrible day when I was on the way to shul with my 8-year-old, must have been 6 at the time, and we were on the way to Simchat Torah davening. She wanted to be the first child there to get the candy before any of the other kids. And the siren goes off. We have no idea why. And so we go back home into a dark, empty bomb shelter that wasn't ready in any way. And after 10 minutes, I tell her, okay, go upstairs to mommy, and I'll go to shul. And she looks at me and she says, but Daddy, we have to daven. And I said, okay, you can come, I guess. The shacharit was in the bomb shelter of the shul, and sirens kept on going off. We had no idea why. And I held her the entire time. And every time I started talking to somebody or got distracted, she literally moves my head back into the siddur and says, Daddy, daven. And I think she understood better what was happening than everybody else there. And now the negotiations are going to be intensifying this weekend. While it is Hamas's fault that it hasn't happened yet, it was pretty clear that only when the Knesset disperses, which happens tonight, is when it gets into high gear. And so 10 hostages are going to be coming home very soon. And then the negotiations are going to begin on the final 10. And then it ends, for the most part. We're going to be redeploying our forces with a security zone to prevent October 7th from happening again. But then comes the question, what was the whole point of the war and what happened in it? Did Israel become an international pariah, or did Israel save the world from an Islamic terrorist nuclear war in the future? Now, you all have your opinion on that, and there are people on the other side who have their opinion on that. There's a 90% in between who can go either way, and we have to get as many of them as possible. And that's the goal, and that's why I'm gladly we're included this talk over here.
Do you want me
Because
to switch your slide?
that would be nice,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Of course.
So, go like something. I had a good job before, as you heard from the introduction. I covered politics with Jerusalem Post for nearly a quarter century. Got to interview prime ministers and presidents, and but all the time while I'm doing this, I'm getting invited to speak more and more about what's happening. So here's a video. I don't know if it'll play, but from right when they started firing rockets from Gaza, where I got interviewed by a very hostile interviewer at the BBC.
I believe that when Hillary Clinton would be helping.
It gets louder by itself, actually.
What year is this?
This is at least 10 years ago. And I'm being interviewed by a woman named Michelle Hussein, who got promoted soon after this interview. Listen to what she says more than me.
What will this have achieved? Once we get a ceasefire, as clearly everyone hopes we will, what will it have achieved for Israel?
Well, the whole goal was to achieve quiet in the south. You know, the Israelis have been running for their lives for 10 years. If that can stop even for a few months, then that is a big achievement. And having Egypt involved, having America involved, that's a guarantee that there never was before. If you can have somebody responsible, not a terrorist organization, who was there making sure that the people of Gaza are healthy. The whole goal here for Israel, we want the people of Gaza to be healthy, not to suffer under the terrorist leadership that they have there. Then that's good for Israel, and that's good for the Palestinians, and so we'll that can happen by the end of the day.
You say Israelis have been running for their lives from rockets fired from Gaza. So tell me then, until this current confrontation, how many Israelis have been killed by these rockets from Gaza this year?
Well, you know the numbers don't matter. The fact that Israel has shot down.
No, I think the numbers do matter. Do you know the answer to this? How many Israelis that died this year?
Yeah,
Until
really,
this
know that
current...
it doesn't matter.
No, why does it not matter?
Israel shot down hundreds of them. Each
How
one of
many
those rockets
Israelis?
killed
How
five
many
people.
Israelis were killed? No, but how many Israelis were actually killed by these rockets? Do you know?
Assume that every rocket can kill 5 people, and there have been more than 700 fires since
That was not
So
my
that's
question. Okay,
for
let me
protecting
give
citizens.
you
A lot
the
better than any
answer.
other country is.
Okay.
Israel has no reason to apologize for that, the same way that England and every other country wouldn't apologize for protecting its citizens.
Okay, but you're either unwilling or are unable to give the answer to that question. So let me tell you, the economist says
Because
that
it's
since
relevant.
2004, well that's your view, but we're trying to bring this story to our audiences around the world. Since 2004, according to the economist, 20 Israelis were killed by rockets that came from Gaza into Israel. And this year, not one Israeli was killed by these rockets until this current confrontation began. Do you accept those figures?
Michelle, I would like you to see what it's like to be stuck in a room where you can't leave with your children for hours on end. That at any given moment, the siren will go off, that can go through your roof. The fact that Israel has managed to stop that from happening using defensive measures has prevented war, has prevented a lot of people from being killed on both sides.
Or certainly you could
We're very
argue with you
thankful.
that Hamas was also stopping what's happening all of this period, because although there were rockets being fired, they weren't the big rockets that caused damage in
Perfect
recent days. Were mostly homemade?
Contraptions. They weren't the big rockets, they were only homemade contraptions, she said.
Cute little rockets.
Crediting
Yeah.
Hamas.
Not fancy
And
ones.
so this is what we're up against. This is the foreign media that doesn't care so much when Jews get killed. So like I was asked to be the CNN analyst throughout the opening of the American Embassy in Jerusalem. And since I'm doing this, wherever I go and I'm speaking about Israeli politics, as a political analyst, as the security, as someone who served in the Beit, the questions always end up being, why is Israel's PR so bad and what can we do about it? And so then I was approached to Lead Honest Reporting, which has been the organization that's been fighting for Israel on the media battlefield for 25 years, but it was really created for October 7th. Now, it was created after there was this picture in the New York Times of a bloodied boy with a menacing looking soldier. And the caption said that this was a Palestinian boy harmed by this soldier on the near the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount. Until his father saw the picture in the paper and said, "That's my son, his name is Tuvia."
And there's a gas station, it's not hard to buy it.
Exactly. He's Jewish, the soldier is Druze, not Jewish, and there's no gas station on the Temple Mount.
Really?
So they got literally everything wrong.
But where was the retraction on the 25th page of the New York Times?
Right. And that's the way it used to be. That you would have to write letters to the editor to complain. And you would, the youngest people in the room will be shocked by this, but people used to have to go to a typewriter and type out a letter, and then they would put it in an envelope and then in a box.
They had to lick something first, though.
And lick it, right?
I lick the stamp.
And then you'd hope that a pigeon would come to the box and bring the letter to a newsroom, mailroom, where an intern would then bring it upstairs to the editor, and he would decide what you put in the paper 2 weeks after it actually ran, and then you'd hope that people would remember the context. Nowadays, what do we do when there's something wrong?
Send an email.
No,
Post it on social media.
AI, our AI system will discover it. Within seconds of when it gets online, we'll get a message. I'll call NBC and say, you just had something printed a minute ago that calls the hostages of Israel detainees, or that calls the terrorists released from Israeli prisons and the hostages. Well, get this changed, and it gets changed within 10 minutes of when it went online, before anybody got a chance to see it. That's the way it happens nowadays. So that's what led to honest reporting. This is what's been happening.
Honesty is the best policy. But many of the most respected media outlets and social media platforms frequently ignore this, at least as it relates to the truth surrounding Israel. Sometimes the offenses are subtle, like when the BBC said that the 4 Israeli hostages were free when they were actually rescued. Sometimes the offenses are wide-reaching, like the Washington Post relying on Hamas to report casualty numbers. Frequently, they're outrageous, like known anti-Semites pretending they're objective journalists working for outlets like CNN. And often, the social media algorithms reward lies, liars, and Jew haters. Honestly, this isn't right, isn't moral, and it isn't a fair fight.
So we at Honest Reporting are fighting back as media watchdogs and truth tellers.
And we're making important progress, but it's like David against an army of Goliaths. International news outlets have more than 600 reporters covering Israel. We only have a handful. TikTok pushes out 54 times more pro-Palestinian posts than pro-Israel, and younger generations are already less supportive of Israel.
So although we're small, we're resourceful and determined to ensure that the truth be told.
We get hundreds of stories correctly, journalists reassigned, and others fired. We are debunking myths, calling out misinformation, and sharing facts. Creating content which is reaching and influencing people outside of the echo chamber that's been delivered more than 100 million times in the past year. And we're leveraging AI to enhance our impact. So if you're concerned about anti-Israel lives, enlightening the next generation, combating anti-Semitism, and protecting Jews worldwide, we are working for you. Finally, we believe honesty is the best policy. And our policy is to ensure that Israel is treated fairly. To protect the Jewish state and Jews all around the world. That's the honest truth.
Let's see. That's Jackie Alexander. She's the CEO of Honest Reporting and one of the only female CEOs of a major of any Jewish organization in America. It's changing too slow, but she's a visionary and brilliant. And you'll see in our videos that we put out almost every day. Almost every day we put out a video so that whatever people are talking about that's going on in the news, and people need answers for to defend Israel, they'll have it by the time they wake up on the East Coast in America. A video of under a minute, that's the attention span nowadays, on Instagram, ready to go. When October 7th happened, we had 3,000 followers on Instagram. Now we're up to more than 100,000 followers on Instagram. Because we need it to be. There's somebody needs to be fighting this fight. And our videos are almost all women. Because there are actual scientific studies that have found that men prefer to look at women.
That's not surprising.
And the same studies have found that women also prefer to look at women. So it's very, very rare that we have a man in a video.
Sorry, quick question. Do women have the same credibility to the viewer?
You're the second person, this is the second time somebody asked that follow-up question. I have no idea, it wasn't part of the same study. But I think the IDF should use women a lot more than they do. The stars who got drafted at the beginning of October 7th, they were all in reserve duty, your Konrikis and your Peter Lerner and everything. They're wonderful people, but there's more authenticity, I think, with a woman speaker, especially if she's in uniform. But I don't know. So that's what we've been doing.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. This is an example of what we're fighting since October 7th. This is a 6-second video. Maybe play it a couple times.
9 billion Palestinians live in Gaza, one of the most densely populated areas on Earth, now being pummeled by Israeli airstrikes.
One more time.
9 billion Palestinians live in Gaza, one of the most densely populated areas on Earth, now being pummeled by Israeli airstrikes.
Okay. How many Palestinians live in Gaza?
25 million.
2 million. Okay, so CNN is off by only 7 million. And is Gaza one of the most densely populated areas on Earth?
No, but pervasive myth.
China, maybe?
Right?
India.
Dior is exactly right. The most densely populated areas on Earth are all in Asia. It's Hong Kong, Manila, Mumbai, right?
Yes.
New York, Miami, LA. Correct. New York, Miami, and LA are among the most densely populated areas on Earth as well. We pointed this out to him. He argued with us, but whatever. Okay, so let's talk about Gaza. Okay, I've been to Gaza 4 times, and my first time was when I was on a gap year program in yeshiva, or I'm from Chicago, yeshiva, between high school and college. And one of the perks that they gave us, and I don't know if they gave the Nishmat students back then, was that for a weekend we went to a resort called the Palm Beach Hotel. And it was long before anybody dreamed of there being a Riviera in Gaza, but I remember thinking how much potential there was. My second time in Gaza came as a journalist. I went wherever the politicians went, covering politics for the Jerusalem Post. A group of left-wing politicians went to visit Yasser Arafat in Gaza. And I remember it like it was yesterday, because halfway through, Arafat kicked the journalists out so he could meet alone with the politicians, and the New York Times lady didn't leave. She pretended to be the daughter of one of the members of Knesset. And as I'm about to leave the door, I look around, back, and I see Arafat giving her a big fatherly kiss on the forehead. And I remember thinking, I would rather die than get kissed by that man. And I lost a little respect for the New York Times already then. My third time in Gaza was as a soldier. I served as a combat soldier in my regular duty, but my reserve duty, I switched into Dover Tzahal, the spokesman of the IDF, because I wanted to use my experience and skills as a journalist to help Israel against its enemies. But I didn't get called up for Israel against its enemies. I got called up for the Hitnatkut, the withdrawal from Gaza, where my job was to take around VIP journalists. So one day I had to take around a journalist from the New York Times with a journalist from Fox together. And I thought, oy vey, until I found out that the two journalists were married to each other. And they still are to this day. Opposites attract sometimes, but don't try this at home. And I remember how they talked back then about how Gaza could become the Singapore of the Mediterranean. And maybe it could have, until October 7th. And then I had to come back. So several months into the war, I called up my cousin, who was the deputy commander of the forces in Khan Yunis, and I asked him if he had any stories about what's going on in Gaza that I can tell the people back in America I'm going to be going on a speaking tour, he answers, why do you want stories from me? Come in yourself and see Gaza for yourself. He said, just get permission from the right person at the IDF. So I called up the right person at the IDF who said, no, you can't come in. And then I kind of begged. I said, I'm not worried about my safety. I'm going to a much more dangerous place for a Jew than Gaza. I'm going to UC Berkeley. And they still didn't let me in. I called up my cousin all dejected. And then he gave me the ultimate Israeli response of, screw them, they won't now. and before that, before I knew it, I was on a Jeep going around Gaza. And I got to see how in Gaza, 80% of the homes had some kind of terror infrastructure. 80%. 100% of the schools, hospitals, playgrounds, mosques, and cemeteries. It takes time to remove all that. I wish this could have been a 6-day war. But unfortunately, we needed a 660-day war in order to get rid of all that. But how could the world let us have a 660-day war? Well, the first answer is obviously they saw what happened on October 7th, that we had to retaliate in a very serious kind of way. The world leaders saw we had to defeat terror, it would be emboldened in their countries. They also saw the divisions among the people of Israel. We were, before October 7th, fighting over things that seem ridiculous in retrospect, maybe already did before, and then we united beautifully temporarily after October 7th, and that contrast was seen by the world. But I think, it's okay, I think the last reason why the war has been able to go on for as long as it's unfortunately needed to is because of what ordinary people have been doing, posting things pro-Israel. And so, what's happened in past wars, they lasted 6 days because the world leaders, the world media put pressure on the world leaders who put pressure on Israel to end the war prematurely without accomplishing anything. That couldn't have happened this time. We needed a long war to get it done. So this time people have been questioning from the very beginning of the war. How can it be that Israel destroyed a hospital in Gaza? That can't be true. You know, when Israel, after 4 hours, it used to take 4 weeks, but to put out the truth, the damage was already done. But still, then people question, how could so many media outlets get that wrong? And that's been helpful in this war. Let's see what we have in the room. How many of you have posted something pro-Israel since October 7th, 2023? Okay, so most of the room. How many of you are on Facebook? The older people in the room. How many of you are on Instagram? The younger people in the room. Yes.
Our hands up.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
we don't.
How many of you are on X, formerly known as Twitter? Only 2, or used to be. Okay. How many of you are on Telegram? Just the 2 of us in Hamas. How many of you are on Snapchat? Okay. How many of you are on TikTok? No one else? It's a mitzvah. It says in the Torah, Midvar Sheker TikTok.
It's Chinese spyware.
We need to be there. We need to be there fighting the fight. Wherever there's a fight for Israel and the Jewish people, we need to be there fighting. And how many of you are on LinkedIn? Okay, the younger people, you'll get there, the students. And how many of you are none of them? Really? How do you see your children or your grandchildren? If you WhatsApp is not social media, thank God. It's probably the status is.
The schools call it social media.
The schools do?
Yeah, like some of the big Catholic schools in America.
But at least there's private messaging.
Yeah, but they don't let the girls be on it if have phones with it.
Okay. Well, but without being able to spy on your kids, how do you know who they're dating? Anyway, so except for the 4 women who raised their hand at the end, you're all involved in fighting this very important fight for Israel, which I do believe not only does success on the media battlefield help on the military battlefield, I also think it's the key to ending the rise in anti-Semitism in the United States. So I appreciate what you're doing. So a month into the war, we started asking questions like, how did the photographers get there so early to the border with Gaza? This is the tank of Omer Nutra of Long Island. His body is still being held in Gaza. And we asked, well, this guy who took the picture, Hassan Asliach, how did he know to be there so early? Well, by the end of the day, we found a picture of him being kissed by Yehia Sinwar. He worked for CNN and AP. And somebody who worked for one of those media outlets actually called me at 6 o'clock in the morning from his wife's phone, saying, check this guy out, he's a little creepy. Now, the next page, there's another picture of the same tank that became the picture of the year of 2023. This is the driver of the tank, Shaked Dahan, being dragged out of the tank. And the guy who took the picture is Mohammed Faik Abu Mustafa, who we don't need to listen to him speak in Arabic. I'll tell you what he says. He says, people of Gaza, you've got to come in. This is Instagram Live on the afternoon of October 7th. He said, I've been here since early in the morning in a settlement called Sderot. And we've been taking the men out to Gaza. We've been killing the dogs. And we've been doing whatever we want to do with the women. You got to join me in doing that here. We were worried that this scumbag would win the Pulitzer Prize. We start doing a campaign saying, Pulitzer people, don't give the prize to infiltrators or Hitler praisers. Because there was a war in Gaza, the previous war, where the New York Times guy who covered the war, we caught him saying in Arabic on social media, Jews are sons of dogs and I'm in favor of killing them like Hitler did, including the elderly and the young. So don't give the Pulitzer to Hitler praisers and infiltrators. So what happened was, where Mohammed Faik Abu Mustafa worked, Reuters, they did win the Pulitzer Prize that year for international photography. But they submitted 0 pictures from October 7th. And they were asked, was that a slow news day? Why no pictures from that day? And they said, because there's this annoying media watchdog called Honest Reporting that questioned the ethical and physical boundaries that were crossed on that day. We didn't want to mar our winning bid. Yeah, please.
But you were saying earlier that 80% of Gaza has terror infrastructure, and you're saying the war is taking a very long time. But you seem like very confident that we're gonna just take out this terror infrastructure altogether from Gaza. But
Not all of it, as much as we can.
what's the likelihood of that actually happening? Because I mean, from my perspective, from what I've seen, is I feel like we're killing 10 and then there's like 5 coming back, and we're killing 50 and there's 20. Like, so it seems like it's like never ending.
Okay, so the commanders are dead. Out of the 20 commanders that there were before October 7th, only one is left alive, who's now is considered like the leader of Hamas now, because he's the only one left. And so the people haven't been trained. That you've got like the fighters are now like teenagers. They don't know what to do. It's very, very different than the strong army that there was on our border, ready to attack us as there was on October 7th. And regarding the infrastructure, Israel's already destroyed more tunnels that are together longer than the subway system in Manhattan. So are there more that still have to be destroyed? Every day that the hostages don't come home so the war isn't over, we're destroying more. You notice that the soldiers that are still being killed in Gaza, unfortunately, are from the engineering corps. They're people destroying tunnels. That's what we're doing right now. Trying to destroy as much as we can before the war ends. Don't send your kids to engineering corps. So we're doing what we can while we can. And I mean, did you notice that on October 7th, there were no attacks on Israel from underground? You know, they went through the fence, above ground. They went flyers, hang gliders above. They came in by sea, but there were terror tunnels before that went underground. We have a metal fence, $3 billion fence that was built that stopped that. So look, we're going to have the same thing in the border with Egypt, between Egypt and Gaza. We're keeping the Philadelphia corridor in the deal. We know what to do, and we've learned a lot of lessons from October to stop it from happening in the future. And Hamas won't be in power anymore. That's part of the agreement. So we can move on. So I've only been with Honest Reporting for 3 years, and since I joined, we have, along with my CEO, we have gotten 14 Hitler and Hamas praising journalists suspended, reassigned, or fired, including 3 from AP, 3 from CNN, and 3 from the New York Times. And so those are the pictures of what you're seeing over here. And we've also shifted our focus from the mainstream media to social media, certainly from our website to social media, because that's where you've got to make an impact. So 2/3 of the people who see our content are millennials and Gen Z, and 57% of the people who see our content are people who don't follow us on any platform and don't get our emails. And that means that we're getting out of the echo chamber. I'm friends with the people, it's going to go a little faster now, you don't have to play this. With the people who run the Israel side of TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and they say we are effective in getting around their algorithms to reach as many people as possible with 1-minute videos that show, for instance, carousels like this that show how much does it cost to build a bomb shelter? $30,000. How many bomb shelters there in Gaza? 0. How much did it cost to build a tunnel? $3 million. And how many tunnels were there in Gaza at the beginning of the war? 350 to 400 tunnels.
How many are there now?
Less than 100. You know, and so Hamas is going to build 300 bomb shelters in Gaza for every 1 tunnel, but it said 0 bomb shelters and 350 miles of tunnels.
Where do you get this information of how many tunnels there
Idea.
are?
You know, I'm in touch with the spokesman's unit of the Army that I'm in all the time to get more information. And these videos go viral. We have a video on Hamas math about how the world believes any number taken, put out by Hamas about how many killed and everything, gathering food and whatever. And so that's been seen by 6 million people. Now there's a question now. Can we change the journalists? Can we regain deterrence on the media battlefield? Or should we just be educating you as consumers? This is a question you can decide for yourself. Most people think you can't change the journalists. Here's a small argument that maybe you can. People are unconvinced, but we'll play this video. It's so, I have an opinion on this, so I insisted on doing the video myself. I'm very rarely, but this one I did.
One group that's holding the media accountable pays off.
We were operating, all journalists at the time, continue to be operating in an environment that was mentioning earlier that is hyper-politicized. As you can imagine, and as we've seen from various organizations like Honest Reporting and from other watchdogs recently that look at Western media in particular and try to poke holes in the tweets, in the LinkedIn posts, in the stories of journalists and trying to accuse them of bias.
Well, here it is, straight from the source. Reuters bureau chief for Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Maya Jabali recently admitted that scrutiny by Honest Reporting has made her team extra careful while reporting on Israel. But that's not all. Jabali also referred to the deterring impact of what Honest Reporting does, exposing biased journalists like those who infiltrated Israel on October 7th.
Honest Reporting also accused Reuters of having been embedded with Hamas on October 7th, which are also baseless claims.
Side note, Maya, read our expose. We didn't say they were embedded, we just asked important questions, which is what Reuters should have done. But thanks for giving the following validation of our efforts to correct an unbalanced media field.
We're operating an environment where everybody is trying to find bias in everyone's stories. And the ones on the ground, the reporters on the ground, are doing their absolute best and working their absolute hardest to find the best way to tell the story. And what that means, it doesn't mean just finding the right words. That means going out and finding the right interviews, making sure that you're balanced in the people that you've interviewed, in your perspective on the story, in the way you're approaching a story, in your headline, in what you're writing, everywhere that you use, and how high
people don't realize enough who they're getting their news from. Israel made a controversial decision in 2014 to not let journalists go into Gaza. So on our side, the top journalists in the world came here after October 7th. But to Gaza, no one. It's ordinary Gazans with cell phones. That's who people are trusting. They know they'll get killed if they don't report what Hamas wants. So people will be very, very careful. We need to be impacting the narrative so people keep on going. Because if your young people are getting your news from social media, it impacts what they think. Because among people 65 and over, 93 to 97% say that they're more pro-Israel and pro-Hamas. Harvard-Harris has been taking polls every month since October 7th, asking this question: are you more pro-Israel or not Palestine, pro-Hamas? And so people 65 and over, we don't have a problem with. But among 18 to 24, first of all, the numbers have been going up and down because they're so impressionable. But 51% call themselves pro-Hamas, meaning that among the young people in America, more than half are in favor of going to dance festivals and murdering, raping, and kidnapping as many people as they can if they know what they're talking about, which they don't. But because they're getting the news from social media, their mind changes every few minutes based on what they've seen last. So you can make an impact on them. And so that's why we're using AI, we filter the internet, but we'll go fast through all the rest of it. There's 8 categories of media bias. We've trained an AI tool to find them. And we're going to be releasing it to the public. So anybody can read an article and find, oh, this is selective omission, or here they put this out of context. And people will be able to find it. And because it was still bothering us that people were blaming Israel for this war, why is the war continuing to go in Gaza? We put on an interactive map of the tunnels so people could see how they're going under the mosques, how they're going under the schools, and keep on being able to see for themselves why Israel's fighting such a unique war that there's never been before underground. And this is the last screen, and we'll keep it there. You can relax now. Thank you so much. What can you do about it is the question. So first of all, subscribe if you can to get our emails. So we only send about 3 a week on honestreporting.com/subscribe. But there are those of you who are on social media, please follow us and share our content. But have any of you ever canceled a subscription to a media outlet for being pro-Israel? Which one? For being anti-Israel.
Sorry, I haven't canceled a subscription, but I've unfollowed influencers and creators on social media.
And yeah?
I switched from the Times to the Journal about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I canceled the Globe and Mail in Canada.
All right. So I understand why you would cancel both the Globe and Mail and the New York Times and unfollow people on social media. I think.
Sorry, I was just looking at
I appreciate it. I'm glad that's a dish. That's a video we put out yesterday about the New York Times. It's wonderful. So thank you for following us there on Instagram like you just did. I could tell what
I'm
you're
sorry, Facebook.
No, Facebook is fine too. In fact, all of you are allowed. Take out your phone. You're allowed to click follow or subscribe. I teach college, so I'm not used to people being so polite. Usually they're on their phone their entire time, and that's what I'm used to seeing. But I think the 3 ladies made a mistake by canceling, because you might have think you hurt them by taking away your $250 or whatever, but you really hurt them more if you follow them and you expose whenever they get things wrong. I don't know what your following is on social media, but you can email it to us, action@honestreporting.com. I think it's up there on the screen, the action?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Phew. Because if we can shame them on social media, we'll hurt them a lot more. We'll make them more deterrent if we believe that you can change journalists, and it'll at least be educating the news consumers If you don't believe, you can change the journalists. And you, as the most educated news consumers about Israel, need to be reading as much as you can when you're not learning Torah. And exposing when they got things wrong. My last advice, besides the obvious donate, which is where that goes to, is to be a mensch. Because if you are a good person, then people will trust you as a source of information. And before you know it, your friends and your friends of your friends and your followers and your followers of your followers and your likers and your likers of your likers will be getting information from you, and they'll know a lot more. And that will help Israel.
If they're interested.
If
they are interested.
So that's the thing. They'll see it regardless, because it's in your Facebook feed. You know, the question that I get more than any question is, I post something about Israel almost every day, and I never get more than 7 likes on Facebook. And then I post a picture of my kid looking cute in a costume on Purim or on Halloween, and I get 700 likes. Well, just as many people saw your pro-Israel post as they did of your kid looking cute in the costume. They're seeing it, they're learning from you every day. And it's making a difference. I think that's why we've been able to accomplish what we've been able to accomplish in this war. And I think it's the key when the war ends to the narrative of I don't care who won the war. I care about Israel's image long term. You know, are we a pariah that people need to be ashamed of? You wear a Jewish star to Target and you think the lady is going to look at you and not give you the discount? Or are we the savior of mankind on this earth, which is the truth? And it affects how our economy is going to be in Israel. It affects whether the Abraham Accords are going to be now expanded to another 10 countries, starting with Saudi Arabia, maybe Lebanon and Syria. And then that follows other Gulf states and Asian and African countries that aren't as ideological as other places are. It's the key to success of building Israel as a regional economic power. And Israel having a bright future and being able to recover economically from a war that cost a ridiculous amount of money. So that's why I'm really glad that I was asked to speak here, because you all have power. And this is going to help your daughters and granddaughters learning Torah over here have an easier life for the future. So feel free to ask me anything about anything, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can turn the lights back on. When I call on you, say your name and where you're from. You can arm wrestle about who goes first.
Okay, Carolee from AD.
Yes.
Are you also watching Israeli news outlets?
No. I don't. I'm not. I'm purposely not following Israeli news outlets because Israel is a democracy with a thriving. The journalists here are the watchdogs of the government, and that's an important role of a democracy. And we need to be focusing on the way we look abroad, with an exception. If Haaretz starts a bloodline, which they did today, I'm telling you to look at the media outlets because we need you to. Don't look at Haaretz today. It's just gross. They've got a dead baby on the cover of the paper.
There's also in Times of Israel yesterday a photograph of a mother and child. I don't know if you saw it, but I wanted to ask you about it.
It's okay. So, yeah, it's a problem. They've crossed red lines in what they've posted. So when they start a blood libel that then gets picked up by the media, then we do focus on Haaretz, but because it's spread around the world. They did that at the beginning of the war when they accused Israel of firing on its own people, which happened in very, very limited cases to save lives. But they made it look like Israel was responsible for October 7th. So that's the exception. In general, we have more than enough world media to be dealing with, and it's okay no matter who the government is in Israel for there to be a thriving, healthy watchdogs from the Israeli media.
But the Israeli media is biased.
All media is biased.
I know all media is biased, but like, I don't know, I saw Jerusalem, but I don't follow any news. That's how I keep my sanity.
Okay.
I don't follow any news, whatever news I get is from, social media, Facebook.
Is that better?
Yeah, because
You control your WhatsApp.
I don't look at everything, I don't follow everything. But like somebody showed me something, I didn't even wanna read the article, cause I looked at the headline from the Jerusalem Post, and I'm like, that's not, I know for a fact that this Knesset member could not have said it in the way that they wrote it. And I'm like, I don't wanna hear what they have to say, because I know like, there's nothing about this that's going to,
Okay.
So I actually have a comment on that I have my original question.
And what's your name and where you're
So I'm
from?
Paula Blank from West Orange, New Jersey, soon to be Hosian, hopefully. Anyway, my son was on guard duty in Near Oath during the Maskara, and he was portrayed as the bad guy in a news, and it's, I don't know what it's called, it's something that's like 60 Minutes or 2020, but in Israel, but it's left wing.
Uvda?
Maybe, I could
Okay.
ask him. And so, like, he was saying, well, after the war, he can sue them, whatever, like, but like, I don't know if there's anything that can be done or should be done, or if he just should let it go, that was just an aside. But, also in social media, so like, I'm very careful on Facebook that I always post publicly so people can share it, right? But on Instagram, then everybody kind of becomes your friends, because it just becomes an open air kind of thing. And so is there a way around that? Because I don't want, like if I'm posting publicly, you have to accept every friend for them to be able to see it, from what I understand. Like,
On Instagram, you can limit to only certain people to see your content.
right, but if I want everybody to see it, but I don't want them to see everything that I'm posting, like on Facebook you can do that. You can post
You
each
can
thing
post by
differently.
post, yeah.
So can you do that on Instagram?
I don't know.
That's the Chinese.
Because I kept accepting friends and then I was like,
If you make yourself public, then
You
you
know,
right, so I made myself
No, you're-
public, but then I had like.
Your
So you have to have
profile,
two accounts.
no, your profile's either private or public, you
Right,
can't have
that's
half,
right.
yeah.
you can make 2 different accounts.
I want to answer the first part of your question though about your son, Paula. I wouldn't, if I were you, be public for him as a soldier, because he won't be able to go to certain places. He did his duty, his compulsory duty, or he might have
Right,
even
he's not
volunteered.
named, he's just.
If
Makes
I
it look
wouldn't
like
be
that.
public as a soldier right now on the internet, but behind the scenes, can you be part of a lawsuit? I'm helping lawsuits in America and in Israel against media outlets that were active on October 7th and violated certain laws when they did that. Against Israeli media in terms of character defamation or whatever. I can understand that there might be a point in doing that if he can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt with an Israeli lawyer. He needs to seek legal, he needs to talk to somebody who really knows what he's doing.
Right. He basically told them before the Maskara that like the 2 conditions that he would be pushing everybody to the side, because like if the ambulance came through or if the Menpei came through, that was it. And then, I guess an ambulance, I don't know if one of them came through and he was pushing everyone to the side, and that's when they photographed him. It's like evil. So, I mean, he may have let this go by now. So I don't know.
If you find out what the program is, I can try to help you behind the scenes in dealing with the producer.
Cool.
Yes.
I'm Yovika from France. My question is, I assume that you don't deal with Europe news?
I don't have enough staff.
Yeah, and so the question is, are there other organizations?
Sure, the CRIF.
Who do like?
The CRIF does their own media in France, and Camera, the Committee for Accuracy of Middle East Reporting, and they have French also. I'm only in English, I'm sorry. Until today, I have an intern from Panama. I went on a speaking tour in Panama a few months ago, in part because they have 30 kosher restaurants for only 20,000 Jews. It was incredible, the food that they have there, and it's so much cheaper than Manhattan. And so I mamish came there to eat. But the head of the Jewish community in Panama found out that I was coming, and he made me speak 10 times. in the week there, and I spoke at 3 girls' schools. Now, it's different than here. I asked how many of the girls are on TikTok. All of them. Fruitest school ever. All of them. And on Instagram. So I don't know if they have filters, whatever. But there was a point in this that was related to what you just said. Oh, it's fair. Yeah, I got an intern from Panama, from one of the girls' schools, and she's going to be translating into Spanish an Instagram post a day. And I think that makes all the difference in the world. Just one a day, 15 minutes of work. That's it. And now we can have an impact on a billion people. Yes?
Hi.
French will follow eventually.
Okay, how can we know about that or not?
Don't hold your breath. We'll get there. We'll get there. But meanwhile, there are others who are doing it with the French media and some more. Because when I talked to government press office over here, to ask them who are the worst, they told me the French are the worst. Which is saying a lot, because it's really bad in Spain and Ireland, but whatever.
There are very powerful people who are really on the bad side.
I know. You've got it really, really bad. I'm sorry, I wish I could do anything right now. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Yes.
I live here in Yerushalayim, 20 minutes walk away. My question is, I feel like a lot
From this place is such kakim because of all the trains they're building.
Yeah.
20 minutes away from here is a
20-minute walk.
Is a 5-minute walk.
20-minute
20-minute walk.
No, it's 20-minute drive. Yeah,
Okay.
Construction's crazy.
It's about the same.
Yeah. Anyway, I've found that a lot of the Westerners who are either pro-Hamas or susceptible to pro-Hamas or pro-Islamist propaganda have a complete failure of an ability to understand that they have a fundamentally different culture and set of priorities and values than we do, and they really operate from a very different mentality, and which is why they just can't understand Israel's narrative, and they just are unwilling to see how much of a death cult it really is. How, like, that's sort of like a really deep and complex story to tell and convey, especially to people who've never left the United States, for example, or never seen, war or the Third World or anything like that. How do we start to tell that story or kind of make people understand that underlying issue?
Sorry, you said that you are active on social media, so when you see ordinary Gazans that are posting things against Hamas, we need as much of that as we can to highlight that. People, you're saying they don't understand the culture of Hamas being different than America. They don't understand the culture of Hamas being different than Ramallah. Much of where Arabs live in Yudan Shomron is very secular.
Let me actually look a little better.
Sure.
What I actually mean is, like, a lot of people in the West that I have talked to who do not get it, like, they fundamentally cannot understand that there are Palestinians who would rather kill you and be killed than let you live next to them. Like, they cannot understand that mentality at all. And they're not willing to accept that people can think like that because they've never encountered it. Like, it's just, to me, like, it's such a hard, like, I've tried to explain this to people, and they are just unwilling to see that other people do not have their same value set when they've never encountered it. And it's like, how do we deal with that?
I think you explained it very well. I mean, we highlight polling that there's been done. You can't think of poll right now in Gaza, but we used to be. In Israel, obviously, it's a lot easier to do polling, and the Israel Democracy Institute does a poll every year called the Democracy Index, which asks hundreds of questions, and you really understand the society better. And my favorite question is, what minority would you least like to have living next door? And they ask questions about to Jews, different kinds of Jews. Would you rather have an Arab or an Ethiopian or someone Sephardi or whatever? And among the secular Israeli public, they'd rather live next to an Arab than somebody Haredi. Still.
Oh, of course.
Yes. Even among religious Zionists, they'd rather live not next to somebody Arab, but they'd rather live next to somebody secular than Haredi.
I'm sorry, who's that? Would you rather live next to an Arab than Korean or secular Zionist?
What?
Secular Israelis?
Yeah.
Okay.
And was speaking to a reform group from Los Angeles, from Temple Akiva of Culver City, who has a rabbi who's been married. He's been married to his husband now for 30 years. And the question was Israeli Arabs. Who would you least like to have living next to you? They'd rather live next to anyone other than somebody gay. And so reading this to that group, they were floored. How in the world can anybody say that? Our rabbi and his husband are so adorable, and they're raising two beautiful children, and I actually made Reform Jews from Los Angeles hate Arabs. And so these kinds of things, whenever you can do things that highlight the society, we try to do that. Yes?
You started off very confidently saying the war's ending, getting hostages back. Do you think they accomplished the goal of the war? Is it just about getting the hostages back? Are they getting the hostages back? How do you know this? And also, you're saying about all the tunnels that they burst, 100 more. Even if they have 100 left, like it's still, they didn't successfully finish the war. And then maybe they did.
You think ending the war, you need to have nitzachon mukhlat, complete victory?
If they put so many soldiers at risk of their life, not risk of their life, at death, and so many injured and everything, like, is it, how do they make sure that without completely eradicating everything in Gaza that it won't happen again?
Okay, you've got 3 different questions here, and I'm going to answer all of them. So I'm going to answer the last part first. The answer is that there's going to be a ceasefire, and we're not going to honor it. There's a ceasefire in Lebanon since January. Have we honored it? Not even close. We go into Lebanon all the time and kill wanted terrorists. We're reaching a ceasefire to bring our 10 home and then the other 10 home, please God. We're talking only about the living here. Please God. And we're going to continue to kill the ticking time bombs from Gaza forever. We're not going to have the same just in case, what will the world say kind of thing anymore, especially as long as Trump is there. We have free reign to keep on doing it. Regarding your question of why am I confident that it's about to end, is because Witkoff is coming back with a mandate. America's angry, and Netanyahu, we're not giving political opinions here, but Netanyahu is very hesitant to act while the Knesset is in session. He does not like it that he's got different politicians pulling him in different kinds of ways. When the Pagra happens, the Knesset's on recess, he can do whatever he wants. The recess begins really when the Knesset adjourns late tonight, probably in the middle of the night, until after Simchat Torah, until a week after Simchat Torah, because they give a week to take down your sukkah. It's a good job if you can get it. Okay, so no Knesset the rest of July, all of August, all of September, almost all of October. So this is the time that Netanyahu can make sacrifices that he normally would not be willing to make, to the extent that it's our fault that it hasn't happened yet, which is small. It's obviously more Hamas, but it's happening at the same time that America's putting pressure on Qatar more than they ever did before. Now, your first part of your question was regarding the accomplishments of the war. The accomplishments of the war are amazing. If you would have told me on Friday, October 6th, that we're going to have a war that results in destroying 40 years of terror infrastructure of Iran without losing a single soldier and be killed, kidnapped, or wounded, wow. The Security Cabinet that approved going to war against Iran estimated hundreds, maybe thousands killed on the Israeli side. There were 29. That's a horrible 29. God bless their souls. But it's not hundreds and it's not thousands. If you would have told me back then that we're going to have a government in Lebanon who sees as its enemy not Israel but Hezbollah, and that all the commanders of Hezbollah are dead except for the one who's now Naim Qassem, who's the leader who Israel purposely kept alive because he's so weak. You get them with beepers and pagers and walkie-talkies and everything. Wow, what's happened in Lebanon. And there were more missiles aimed at Israel from Lebanon than there were in any country in the world aimed at any country in the world. And now they're completely defamed. Okay? Syria was the strongest army on our border. We destroyed it in 4 days. And regardless of what happened at the Druze, which is complicated, America still thinks it can bring about a security pact between Israel and Syria. So, and Gaza, what happened on October 7th is the most horrible thing imaginable. They can't do it again. Now, right. I mean, they don't have the long-range missiles anymore, the short-range missiles. And last thing on that, before I'll call on more people, you asked 3 questions. But there were 3 reasons why Sinwar attacked us on that day. Instead of doing the smart thing, which was to wait till Iran gets the bomb, then attack on all fronts at the same time. That was the plan, right? You're going to attack us, whatever, we got attacked by Hezbollah, and from Iraq, and from Syria, and from Iran, and October 7th with Gaza. 7 military fronts, Houthis, were all supposed to happen at the exact same time. So why did Sinwar jump the gun? Number 1, internal divisions among Israelis. Number 2, to prevent the Abraham Accords that were about to move forward. Saudi Arabia Crown Prince said at the General Assembly of the UN in September that he was going to be moving forward. And once you get the kashrut from Saudi Arabia, that makes other Arab and Muslim countries in the region be able to join. And number 3 is the Iron Beam missile defense system, which is a laser that lowers the price of shooting down a missile from, with the arrow, $1 million each one. Iron Dome is $30,000 to $3 each time. So all these missiles and rockets they've been gathering there in Gaza would be worthless and now it's operational. At least short term. We don't have enough of them.
Yeah, we have them.
Oh, so somebody, the last lady over there.
Do you deal with America, PR as well, like Columbia, those kinds of things?
I just trained the shluchim of the college campuses of Chabad, and we're doing the same with evangelical Christian organizations. There's a lot to be done, but the media is the key, I think.
Yes, I read something that happened, I think 30 or 40 years ago, where Israel was trying to make an agreement with the Mufti and in Yerushalayim, and he refused, and he said, I will get all of you with, not social media, that's on.
By going to America, to the students and getting them.
Right, and he will take care of it.
That was part of the October 7th plan that they've implemented. It's unfortunately way too effective.
Yeah.
Leora.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Amazing.